The Game Boy Advance is one of my favorite handhelds, and completely being honest, when I was growing up as a kid, I didn't get a Game Boy Advance until well after the SP came out. And even then I had the original Game Boy Advance, and I had to utilize like the worm light and everything like that just to be able to see it. And then eventually I got a Game Boy Advance SP, and I remember the Game Boy Advance Micro came out, or Game Boy Micro, and a lot of people were crazy about that, but I kind of thought that was weird. I eventually moved on to utilizing the Nintendo DS and DS Lite, and then going on to the DSi, the DSi XL, and then all the way to the 3DS, 3DS XL, 3DS, all its variations have come out, all the way to the new 3DS. And now I find myself going back to the Game Boy Advance just because this platform had some of the most amazing games ever made. It's next to the original Game Boy, one of the greatest handhelds out there. And I think the only other handheld that rivals it would probably be the 3DS and maybe the PSP. But I love this. What I don't love about this is this screen. This screen is abysmal, even though this has the capability of brightening itself. Unfortunately, it doesn't get bright enough, and it's kind of murky and muddy. And so it makes trying to go back and experience these games not the greatest experience. And on top of that, you have to have an additional dongle to be able to utilize the headphone port, because there's none on this one for some reason. Yeah, this device, as much as I love it, not the greatest fan of the issues that come with it. Granted, there's another model that came out that fixed this, that's also an SP, but even that one is kind of so what do you do, right? So what's the solution to wanting to play Game Boy Advance games with the optimal visual quality and comfort? On top of that, what if you want to play them on your TV? Well, you can't necessarily do that unless you've got a Game Boy Advance player or one of those Retro 5s, or what is it, Retro N5 or Retro 5s? One of those third-party, console to HDMI type of adapter things, those clone consoles. So Analogue decided to step into the market and make what is arguably one of the best handhelds ever made, with the Analogue Pocket. This right here is such an amazing device. And not only does it allow you to play Game Boy Advance games, Game Boy Color games, but you can also play, if you got the adapter, Game Gear, PC Engine, or TurboGrafx 16, as well as Neo Geo Pocket. And on top of that, you got the capability of utilizing an IPS screen, which is absolutely crazy. Save states, press to sleep, press to wake, and you can dock this and be able to use it on your TV with an optional dock you can buy, and then utilize Bluetooth controllers for the Switch or just generally any type of Bluetooth controller. But this device is pretty amazing. Also incredibly hard to come by unless you pre-order it, and then you're gonna have to wait a while to get it because it's not easily accessible with how in high demand and short supply there are. But yeah, Analogue Pocket. We're going to talk about that in this video and so much more. So let's get into it.
This wasn't written with your comfort in mind. Nah. Made my decision, wasn't tough to decide. Nah. Me and my boys, we get it done every time. Gotta earn it, you can't just jump in the line. You'll get rushed to the side. I top my division, I've been building since I started. In the parking lot, I parked it. I came in while picking targets. My career cannot be tarnished. I'm a champion regardless. Celebrate, but this is a different kind of lucha party. We are not alike.
All right, before we kick this video off and dive into the Analogue Pocket, I want to give you guys a general reminder to sub to the channel if you haven't already, and like the video if you like the content I put out, from reviews, tech reviews, game reviews, podcasts, interviews, and so much more. And if you enjoy a lot of content that's done on the Steam Deck, because that's another device I'm doing as well. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Analogue Pocket and why this is one of my favorite devices. And honestly, it makes going back and playing a lot of your retro games a lot more fun. And man, It's such a doozy. So let's talk about this. So the Analog Pocket, a lot of people are going to wonder like, oh, is this utilizing like emulation? Because there's so many, emulation devices that are out there that you can, from Ambernick and a lot of other companies that you can purchase off of Amazon, anywhere from like $30 up to like $200, $300, $400. And no, this is actually using FPGA, which is basically as it's a full reproduction of original hardware with, some additional benefits thrown in there. So this allows you to utilize your original, cartridges like so, as you can see here, and just prop them in, and then you can just start playing. That's something that gives us a heads up over, everything else that's on the market. Now, this is a device that I kind of have been waiting for this for a while, because not only does this utilize USB Type-C for charging, you can use this with a dock that allows you to play out to the TV, but you can also still use your link cables. So if someone's using a Game Boy Advance and they want to be able to play with you, you can still use link cables and play against each other. And then on top of that, the audio in this is really good. It's got, very loud stereo speakers on both sides of the device, which is amazing for hearing that, the sounds of a lot of games, such as like, Minish Cap of Final Fantasy VI Advance, even though a lot of people hate the audio in that version of Final Fantasy VI, but the point still stands. Now, so I've been going back and playing a lot of my retro titles from Final Fantasy VI Advance, like I just said, Final Fantasy IV Advance, Final Fantasy V Advance, 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls, as well as playing Golden Sun and Golden Sun Lost Ages, along with the Minish Cap, Metroid Zero Mission, as well as Metroid Fusion, and just so much more. And it's kind of crazy because a lot of the games that I have cartridges for is thanks to my wife, who she just had a Game Boy Advance collection. And really, if you go to pricecharting.com and look at the collection of the games that she's got, they are insanely rare and expensive. She's been sitting on a gold mine. Wait, baby, I love you. But anyway, it allows me to utilize those cartridges with this device, and it's just so cool. I like the fit and feel of this. A lot of people are not a fan of the original dot matrix form factor of the Analog Pocket and prefer the more comfortable Game Boy Advance, which is more, like this. It's more horizontal, more comfortable in the hands. And I can understand that, and I can agree to some extent. There are some shortcomings, like when it comes to the triggers, a lot of people feel that they don't depress as easily as they should, and they feel kind of sticky and clicky. And occasionally there are issues with putting the cartridge into the slot and getting it to actually read. But when you run into issues like that with the card, you just need to go get some, get a Q-tip and some alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and just clean the contacts and then plop it in, and it should work. And generally, if you're running into any issues where it's like not reading the cartridge, it's usually just due to the fact that the contacts are dirty. So as soon as you do that, it should be fine. But as far as like this right here, like the shoulder buttons feeling too clicky and not responsive, I don't really have an issue with it, because to me, they don't feel that much different than this. Now, I mean, maybe this might have a little bit more give than what's on the Analog Pocket, but you gotta get used to it, and it's not really that big of an issue. I've seen other YouTubers put out videos where they make it seem like it's the worst thing ever. It's not. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. I like the button layout, although I dislike the fact that, the additional buttons here are not being used. So if you were to compare it to the original Game Boy Advance and Game Boy, you've got your A and B, or BA, which is these two right here. And they sit there with the other buttons being available, I guess, for future expansions. I know if you utilize stuff like the EverDrive or the Easy Flash, then you can utilize emulation, and that way, the buttons are fully usable. But as it is, they don't really do anything. And sometimes when you're using classic Game Boy, the buttons may flip around and you can use them. It kind of depends, but it's not always 100%. That's what happens. But, the buttons, I don't really mind them. The D-pad is something that a lot of people are kind of hit or miss about. Some people do prefer the D-pad on the original Game Boy Advance, and I can understand that because this is maybe not the best D-pad, and it is a bit raised and a bit mushy. But for all intents and purposes, for whatever you're going to use it for, if you're going to play platformers or fighting games, they're going to work perfectly fine. So you don't really have to worry about them not working on it. So there's that. A couple other things with this. It does have a micro SD slot, which you basically will be using to update the firmware on this, as well as updating the dock. But at the same time, if you utilize the functions within, if you go to tools and then you go to GB Studio, if you've got some Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, like the ROMs that are formatted into the GB Studio format, and you can just play them straight off of there if you just go to Play Creations, which I think is really cool. It's one of the things I really like about this device is the versatility of it. Now, this is still, the software is still not fully there yet. So you're buying something, if you were to pick this up, you're buying something where you kind of need to go into it knowing that it's not fully realized as it is now. But as time goes on, it's going to eventually open itself up. Now, some people would say, don't buy something for what it could do, buy it for what it can do right now. But in this sense, this is not for the casual. This is going to be for someone who wants, somebody who wants to utilize their current Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color collection, as well as their Game Gear and TurboGrafx and Neo Geo Pocket collection. They just want to go ahead and play it optimally. And in that case, I say, hey, go for it. I don't have any issues with it. But yes, you can take up to 128 gig micro SD card. So if you want to load it with Game Boy ROMs and Game Boy Color ROMs, then you can. Just make sure you convert it into the the GB Studio format. And then if you've got like an Easy Flash Omega Definitive Edition, which is preferably the one you want to go with for better battery consumption, or if you go with the EverDrive Mini or X5, then they work perfectly fine with it. Occasional hiccups. There's some things that won't work because how it is, like with this right here, if I use a stock Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance cart, then I can press the button on the side here, the power button, and I can just put it to sleep and be able to wake it up and go right back to playing the game I was playing with no issue. It just puts it in a very, very low power consumption mode, and I can just go from there. But if you're using, the EverDrive or the, Easy Flash Omega, that functionality is not going to be there. And just do keep in mind, Easy Flash Omega does have save states, whereas the EverDrive doesn't. So, just keep that in mind with how you're going to play your games. Now, you can do save states with this being like the library section, but that's kind of a half-baked thing. It's not fully there yet. And the other thing too I kind of want to talk about is as far as the fit and feel of the buttons on the side, the power button and the volume up and down, they are incredibly recessed. And honestly, if you're running your finger across it, you're not going to know, honestly, what's what. You're just gonna have to have like that mental image. Okay, top one's volume up, middle is volume down, and then the bottom one's gonna be power. It could be a lot better. It's not something I'm gonna majorly gripe about because I either set my audio when I'm already ahead of time, or I just keep it off, or I have headphones plugged in. I don't, it's not something I'm going to like lose sleep over. A lot of people gripe about that. And, honestly, they do like another revision of this or updated form of the Analogue Pocket, I could say, yes, make them a little less, recessed, and make it so that it actually can, be observable what does what. But they're they're very responsive when you press them, but it's just as it is, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a bit too flush, if you catch my drift. Now on the bottom, you do have your select and start, just like you do on your standard Game Boy Advance and Game Boy, but you also have the analog pocket home button. So like if you're in a game, say like I go into a game right now and I want to go out, I would just press that button and it would let me go out of the game. But yeah, for the intents and purposes, I can just, if I'm here, just press that and I can go quit game, go to tool settings and the like. Now you got a lot of other things too. Like if you go into system, you can change things. So you've got the option of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Gear, and then you can select the video aspect ratio, frame blendings, sharpness, saturation, size, as far as like the hardware region, and there's just a lot of stuff you can do with it. I like one of the options it gives you, like when it comes to Game Boy Advance, you can either go with original audio or you can go with high quality, and I just kind of leave mine to high quality and just go from there. Outside of that, you can go into Pocket, you can change the display, the audio, go to global reset and analog OS. You can look at, the startup actions, as well as, if you want it to boot into the OS or just boot straight into the, the cartridge, and then you got your about, you can go from there. So it's really cool. I will say one thing. When you're playing Game Boy Color games, they fully fit to the aspect ratio of the screen, like it fully fills it. But when you're playing Game Boy Advance games, they do have a slightly weirder aspect ratio, but it does feel like you get the full Game Boy Advance. And it's not really a 4:3, but it's kind of like a interesting aspect ratio, as you can see here. But you will get the black bars at the top and bottom, and a lot of people have complained because they would like it to have the full width of the top and bottom of the screen. But to me, not really an issue. So I've covered, the devices itself, but how's it when you dock it? So when you dock it, it's really simple. You just literally set it on a dock, and it's kind of like the Nintendo Switch. It immediately pops into the TV or a monitor you're using, or if you're using a capture card, it'll auto-populate, and then you can just, utilize any of your controllers. So like you can do wired or wireless. I've been able to use wired and wireless Nintendo Switch and Xbox controllers, which is interesting. I didn't think the Xbox controllers would actually register. I've used like the Razor Wolverine. I've utilized, the Victrix, what's the thing called? The Victrix Gambit. I've utilized that with this, and it worked perfectly fine wired. And then wirelessly, I've been able to use my Nintendo Switch Pro controller as well as my DualShock 4 controller, and just go from there. Everything works. It's really cool. As far as customization of the buttons, it's not quite there yet, but with further updates, that functionality should be added down the road. But yeah, docking it is really cool. If a lot of us are used to using the Game Boy Advance player for the Nintendo GameCube, which is, it has its own type of issues with latency and lag and all this other stuff, and reproduction of the image and the color, because the emulator that's in it that utilizes the Game Boy Advance stuff is not the greatest. So a lot of people utilize Swiss and then do custom emulation through to be able to play Game Boy Advance stuff on their GameCube, or to utilize like the Retro 8 and 5 and other clone console stuff. But this is probably the best way for you to play your Game Boy Advance games going forward on, portably or on the TV. And same thing for Game Gear, Game Boy Color, and Neo Geo Pocket, as well as the TurboGrafx 16. Just dock it and you're ready to go. So all that being said, do I recommend the Analogue Pocket? Is this something I think you should pick up if you are a casual or a collector or an enthusiast? I think if you want the best way to play your Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and such, this is what you're going to want to get. Although you could put like an IPS, drop in on this and get the custom brightness and all that. You could get something that's, fairly functional if you don't want to drop $200 to get something like this. That's fine. But if you've got the money to spend and the capability, I would say get this. At this point, you're going to have to pre-order it as of this recording to be able to wait for your queue to come up to get it in like 2023, 2024, maybe. I don't know. They may ramp up production and then you'll be able to get it more sooner. But for all intents and purposes, I think if you want to get it, get it. I mean, you can get it from eBay, but scalpers, you know how they are. But all that being said, amazing device, absolutely love it. And yeah, this is my go-to. I actually use this a lot. I go between this, the Steam Deck, my Switch when it comes to like what I'm playing. But all that being said, what do you guys think of the Analogue Pocket? Is it something that you're utilizing? Do you have one? Do you love it? Are you using the original cartridges? Are you using the EverDrive or the Easy Flash Mega? Whatever you're using, even like, the reproduction cards, they work on this as well. Whatever your thoughts are, let's go ahead and get the conversation going in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and ding the notification bell. And all that being said, if you want to support the content we do, got channel memberships, we got merch over on Teespring and TeePublic, and we also have Patreon. So patreon.com/MikhailCasanova. All that being said, I got to get up out of here. Hope you guys have a great one, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Mahalo for making it to the end of the video. And if you found anything of importance or substance that you gained from watching this, make sure you leave a comment down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you sub to the channel and ding the notification bell. That way you stay up to date on all the content that you get from my channel, from podcasts, streams, reviews, impressions, reactions, and so much more. If you want to support what we do have channel memberships. We've got Patreon, we've got Subscribestar, as well as coffee, which I would love to be drinking some coffee right now, which I am. That's some good coffee. But anyway, we got all of that, and we also have merch on Teespring and TeePublic, so make sure you go check that out. And all that being said, I just hope to see you in the next video that I put out. So hey, see you around.